do you know this stuff? I've let the first couple things slide that have been ultra specific.
I have to do my research, man. Come on.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. A lot that I've never spoken about before.
For Complex News, it's 360 with Speedy Morman. I'm him, and we have a very, very special guest in the building. She is a young pioneer. Yara Shahidi is with us. Yara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So far, so good. Before we started rolling, we were talking about this beautiful background that you have. Can you give us a quick lowdown about it? Where did this come from? Did you make it?
I believe, if I'm not totally mistaken, this is Moroccan, but after months and months of Zoom calls, we just thought we had to update our Zoom space so it wasn't a blank wall. And so this is just a panel. It looks much fancier than it is, but I mean, the perks of having a Bubba as a DP, he really got the entire setup set up correctly.
Prior, and we love to see and hear that. Now, obviously, you have so much stuff going on, and so we're grateful that you would take the time. But while I was doing my preparation for this interview, I watched what was a million interviews that you've done. And one thing that I noticed that was a common theme was so many people comparing themselves to your journey, right? And the line that I hear over and over and over again is, when I was 17 or when I was 19 or at different points in your life, if you had to put a number on it, how many times do you think you've heard someone say, when I was blank years old like you are, I was not nearly as smart as you are?
I mean, it's so funny you mentioned that. I think I was talking about this recently with my team. I don't know if I could put a number on it. And I'm grateful for the compliment, but I do have to say I'm a very supported kid. And so much of it comes from just having a support network that makes it even feasible.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I may be deemed an anomaly at 21, I also have an anomaly of a team around me to help me do what I do.
Now, I don't know how much, do you spend much time on YouTube or not really?
As of late, I'm one of those people that like pimple popping videos. And
oh.
I hate to admit it, but
okay.
That's what brings me to YouTube at like 1 a.m. at random times. That's my like way. It goes between pimple popping videos on history. I have a lot of just like quick explainer videos that I watch, but I'm on YouTube more than I expect.
Okay, well, the pimple popping is not what I anticipated you to say. However, one of the funniest videos I watched, or interesting videos with millions of views on it, is, quote, this is the headline of the video: people getting shocked at how smart Yara Shahidi is for 2 minutes straight. Have you seen this video?
My friend sent me the link to it, but I have tried to commit to not looking myself up. And
okay.
So part of that commitment was not clicking the link, but it's funny because, I mean, my friends know me, and therefore they get videos suggested to them that have to do with me. So many of them, their entire page is just videos about me. And so that's how I get my news about myself, is by proxy.
That video itself was like a compilation of people's Oprah. I can't remember who else, just people just like literally reacting in a way that's like, oh my God, this young woman is so brilliant. So it was a funny compilation to see. But you said that you've committed to not looking yourself up. And I'm wondering how true to that commitment you are. Do you ever bend or break?
I mean, sometimes I do. I've actually been way more committed than I had been in the past. It really started because, being a young kid on social media, I had Instagram since I was 13, Twitter shortly after. I don't know how many Tumblr accounts I have. And so many times I would just kind of look up my name, especially like when the show first started, because it would be just a way to engage with people. But what I realized, if you're not tagged in it, it was not meant for you to see.
Yeah.
It's been my recent lesson. And I think as much as people may think that with so many mentions, we may not see stuff, I'm still in the phase where I take things personally. And so a way to just kind of clear out my path was just to get rid of as many avenues and access that I had to just looking information up about myself. It ended up kind of just cluttering my mind and lingering with me. And of course, I mean, as people do, you can see 10 good things and the one negative thing you see, that's what travels with you. And so I'd have to say I'm pretty proud of myself because it used to be like a faux commitment, but now I really have to say it's been months and months.
Wow, you're a stronger person than most, I will say, because a lot of people can't help but just type in their name and just look at it. And so I absolutely commend you for that commitment. Now, something else I commend you for is your commitment to higher education. You are in a position where I imagine you don't have to go to school, but you've decided that it's something that you are going to stick out. And it's a journey that we've seen some people in your shoes do. And someone who comes to mind is Megan Thee Stallion. She too decided, I'm not going to give up on this education that I've already invested so much in, whether it's finances or mentally. And so here you are with all you've got going on as a rising senior at Harvard University, not even just like some DeVry University level education. We're talking like the cream of the crop here. And so how difficult is it balancing what you've got going on and what made you want to just dug it out and not quit?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. It's a conversation we have regularly, but part of it is because I've always just been a nerd. And I think the other thing that's really been particular is that I've always been really supported in my education. And so, you know, when we hit kind of the first big moment, which I'd have to say would be Blackish, because as much as it may seem like a juggle now, to be a high schooler and to be working for my first time, full time for the majority of the year and schooling on set, that was the first big commitment to figure out, okay, what are we going to do to accommodate for this new thing? And so I was at an all-girls Catholic school and we tried to make it work there for a long time. And that was when I realized I needed to adjust a bit. And the reason I say all that is because as much as this is the grind, I was still working 10 plus hours a day on set. And then in high school, going back and doing 5 plus hours of school, and my entire weekends were dedicated to school. So it was a commitment I made a while ago. And so when we got to college, everyone on set had been hearing my mouth about college for years. Everyone knew I was going. Everyone knew that when I was applying. And, you know, as a team, they really committed to help me figure it out. And it's still a juggling act. But ultimately, what made me make the decision was one of my first weeks of classes, when everything was still really up in the air about how we were going to make the show work while I was in school. I sit in on this class with Cornell West. And I walked out and I was in tears. I was so moved. And there was something about being in that class where I was like, oh, I have to be here right now. As much as I know I could go later, there's something about being here right now. And as soon as I made that commitment, all else continued to shift. And so one season I flew back and forth every week, 3 days on campus, 2 days shooting. One season I was 60 hours plus a week on set and just kind of distance learning. Of course, this one's all virtual. But we've made it work every season.
Wow. I'm incredibly impressed by the way that you've made it work. Have your grades at all been impacted by this crazy commitment or not so much?
This is the only place where I will properly flex. No, my parents have to remind me that it is okay that things will adjust and that when I'm working full time, that my school commitment will just have to change a bit. Because I'm that type of person where no matter how crazy my week is, I'm like, well, why didn't I do this to the best of my ability? What kept me from achieving this paper, from reading it and doing a draft 3 times around? So I try and just make it a little more realistic because ultimately I try to detach the being there to learn versus being there for the accolades of it all.
Well, you said that this is the only area that you will confidently flex in. What are we talking here? 3.8, 3.9, magna cum laude? What are we talking?
Well, I can't know if I'm summa or any of that till a little later. But I'm kind of in the 3.8 position.
Okay, but at Harvard, that's incredible.
I know I have classmates that will top that easily, but I'm proud of what I've been able to pull off given the circumstances.
Now, one thing that you've always said, which I very much resonate with, is that you're a homebody. And so this pandemic maybe has been just a way for you to just lean into your true self. Has it been difficult for you to be confined to your home? Or are you like me, where it's like you're just leaning into the better version of yourself?
I've really faltered between being my best self to being my laziest self. And so I'd have to say the first couple months of the pandemic was the first time I was exercising regularly. I was really leaning into Yara. And so now I'm at a point in which I have to kind of reinstate everything that I did at the top of the pandemic because a lot has dropped off. But I mean, I feel like I've gotten quite a bit done. I finally got my license after 21 years of living.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm excited to be doing that. My 17-year-old brother was driving me around. I have to really shout Saeed out because he really helped me practice.
Did you pass on the first try?
I did.
Good.
But given I did have 21 years to prep.
Now, this quote here, we don't integrate, we recreate. It's something that you wrote down in your journal many, many years ago. It's something that you still have in your IG bio at this very moment.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, going back to the history nerd in me, it really started from just kind of continuing to double down on my understanding of like the Black freedom movements and civil rights movements. And you know, one era that we don't talk about often is this Reconstruction era, post-Civil War. We were rebuilding society. We had more Black senators than ever before, and it felt like society was building up. And then just like that, it felt like every institutional barrier went right back up again. And the one thing that I'd taken away from continuing to understand that era better was that nothing had actually shifted in the fabric of American society. They had merely allowed us into these rooms, but the rooms didn't change. The way spaces were configured didn't change. The aims of these structures didn't change. And that's why it was so easy to just kind of backpedal and continue to use these systematic barriers of entry. And so I think after learning about that and then seeing the ways it felt so applicable to our own lives, I mean, being somebody where, you know, I come from a family and we come from communities where we're oftentimes the only one of something in a room. And I think we can speak to the experiences of being in a room where they've made space for you to belong versus being in a room in which your access is always kind of dangling. You never know if you actually genuinely have space here. And so I think that's what really kind of made me think about the sentiment altogether. And then the recreation part was really about looking at the future, looking at my peers, looking at what incredible organizers are doing. We're starting to genuinely reimagine what futures can look like, and even questioning systems that were deemed so normal. If we look at even this past summer and the questioning of the policing system itself is unprecedented, at least to be such a mainstream call to action. As much as it's been done for generations, we're now saying it's not just about reform, because oftentimes reform implies that the system is fine as it is, as long as you make this small tweak, versus saying, like, this is time to really reimagine. And so I think it came from that just inspiration of being like, we're in a space in which we're building worlds that we haven't seen before.
Wow, that was so poetic. So, wow. That was an amazing answer to that question. You were just announced as the winner of the first ever Advocate of the Year award at the Webbies. That means a lot because people can look to you as a voice for the voiceless. A lot of times people maybe don't understand things until they hear it come from you. And so with that, you know, there's so much going on in the world right now, particularly with Israel and Palestine. And a lot of people are turning a blind eye to what's going on in the world. But because so many people can understand things when you say it, why is it important to not turn a blind eye to what's going on?
Well, I have to start by saying one of the most impactful moments for me, particularly as it pertained to human rights violations happening to Palestinians right now, was hearing Dr. Angela Davis speak. I was lucky enough at 16 to hear her speak at this event. It was just a panel at the Underground Museum. And even though no one prompted her, she was just talking about the importance of global solidarity. You know, these borders are a facade. And I think oftentimes used to keep us separate when we're oftentimes fighting the same injustices. I mean, I think even when I spoke on the situation right now, when I speak about it, it is an indictment of governments and not people. It's an indictment of the US as inherently involved in these issues. I feel like what's happening there is a US issue as one of the main catalysts for the injustices and inequities. And so the importance for me to speak on it and try and make it accessible is to ensure that the conversation doesn't feel taboo, to ensure that we can have this conversation in a humane way. We're not trying to neglect anybody's traumas who are living in that area, but we are focusing on the systematic oppression of Palestinians. that are happening in ways that I think many Black and brown folks can relate to, and in many ways that we can't relate to because there are unprecedented things happening. And so to be able to use our global solidarity is so important. And matter of fact, one thing that Dr. Davis had reminded me of was that Palestinian organizers were some of the first to offer their solidarity to Black Lives Matter organizers. So that was really impactful to think about the ways in which we can continue to help each other, because when we're looking for equity, it's not just within a US context. I mean, I think even a great example that's a little peripheral to this is thinking about this pandemic and thinking about as much as I am grateful for the continued efforts of vaccinations here, the ways in which the US has set up the world globally, particularly places that belong to our global brothers and sisters that are brown and Black, to not have access.
Right.
If you're thinking about what's happening in India right now, there's no reason they should be a main manufacturer of vaccines and not have the systems in place, because we're over here in the US and England and these European states taking it all. And so I say that just to say, it's been important to me, as much as I definitely still have to learn, to continue to look at what matters to me and then figure out why or how it has global repercussions, because I think it changes how you do the work and it changes the methods by which we feel like it's effective to call out and to collaborate with these governments and other forces.
Thank you so much for that. That was also so potent and strong. So thank you. Now, sharp turn here. Let's talk about what is on your shoulders right now. We see visually the three stripes, and the three stripes is an important brand to you because not only do you have a collaboration with them right now that's been, maybe 2 years in the works, but it's maybe been a lifetime in the works, because the shell toes were a shoe that you've worn on many occasions throughout your life. Why is this so important to you to have a collaboration with a legendary brand like the Three Stripes?
Oh, well, I mean, going back to what you said, I grew up in Adidas. I remember my first big purchase was a pair of Adidas high tops when I was traveling. But my Bubba wears shell toes on every occasion. I've seen him garden in them, seen him go to red carpet events, seen him walk out of the ocean in a pair of shell toes. But they've always been meaningful to us, whether it be a symbol of the places we've gone or just something that felt like it connected us as a family in terms of our personal style. And I've also been obsessed with tracksuits. I've often talked about how clothes are political, but I know my tracksuits help me take up space. I'm always in new spaces, and as confident as I may seem to some, I'm perpetually unsure of myself. And so oftentimes I wear loud things because it helps me lay claim to the places I'm in. And so my confidence will then match my outfit because it just has to. And so when approaching this Adidas collaboration, I think what was great was that I had some great people help usher me in and be able to ground this collaboration in the sentiments that were important to me. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier of talking about global community and how do I anchor this in global community in quite literal ways and in more figurative ways. And then talk about just the vintage silhouettes that I love. Adidas as a brand has such an interesting history. And so it was such a fun opportunity to combine Adidas's own history with my own history and heritage.
We love to hear it, and we are looking forward to it. Let's talk about music for a second, because we all watched you a couple years ago make a cameo in Drake's Nice for What video. I imagine an incredible experience, but I'm not confident that we've seen you in another rap video since then. If you had to choose an artist to appear in a video for, who would that person be?
Okay, I have two answers for this, and it's making me laugh because everybody on set knows that I talk about this all the time. It's such a particular question.
Okay.
I think one, my cousin Nas, just because his video concepts are always top tier and always love to rep the family.
Okay.
And then the most random one I'd have to say is YBN Nahmir, because this is the issue. I just want to be a homie in the background. That's all I've ever wanted. I want a money phone. I want you to barely even know it's me. And I just want to be having a good time. And it's been a dream of mine for a long time. I'm like, please, it doesn't have to be about my character. I don't have to be featured. You don't have to show my name anywhere.
But it's got to be YBN Nahmir. Why YBN Nahmir though?
I don't know. But it's just kind of what I settled on. I'm open to suggestions for sure.
Okay, but perhaps we can see if we can make this happen. Have you ever had a conversation with Nahmir about this?
Not at all. This is
Well,
the first time I'm saying this.
well,
Only Luca Sabat knows that this is a dream of mine.
okay. Well, we will see what we can do. No promises, of course, but we'll put the bat signal in the sky to Nahmir, and we'll see if he's willing to have you hold a money phone in the background of one of his videos. I think that would be very special.
Yes.
What can you tell me about Isan is Everything Productions?
Oh, this is hilarious. So my brother Ehsan is incredible, and Ehsan is Everything Productions is his name for his company when he makes pieces for us and edits material. Like for our birthdays, one of my favorite things he does under Ehsan is Everything Productions is that he'll take our favorite song, he'll make a music video for it, and then he'll add a verse in of him talking about us and like congratulating us for the milestones that we've hit. And so I look forward to every birthday. Although the last birthday, which was my middle brother Saeed's, he made him a diss track. So that was a bit different.
Well, what did he say in your last, in the verse that he laid for you? What kind of things was he saying?
I have to think. I mean, I was honored to even hear compliments from him. I'm trying to think what the gist was. The song was to the song In My Room by Frank Ocean.
Okay.
I know he heard me overplay it all year. And he was just saying that I was 21 now and how big of a deal it was. I think he did dog on me once for not having my license. All in all, it was pretty positive. I was really feeling myself after it.
What is it about restaurant booths that you don't like?
How do you know this stuff? I've let the first couple things slide that have been ultra specific.
I have to do my research, man. Come on.
Restaurant booths, this just became an issue on set because we just had to shoot an entire 2 episodes in which all I was doing was sitting in a booth. But it just gives me a weird vibe. I mean, I feel like I'm sitting in the past presence of farts of other people. Especially when you kind of sink in and sometimes it lets off a little air, or if they've cleaned the booth, then it's probably a little wet and the plastic doesn't absorb that. It's just altogether not a top tier form of sitting. And so I'm always pulling up a chair.
So the chair is the swap out. That's real. You said you're soaking in a fart bag essentially.
Yeah. I just don't know how to. It's a bit of an irrational fear of mine. It just feels like I'm sitting in the presence of other people and where they used to be and everything they left behind after eating a meal.
Speaking of eating meals, pineapples on pizza is something that is ultra controversial, but you are allergic to both pineapples and cheese because you're lactose intolerant. If you were not, are you a pineapples on pizza type of person?
I'd give it one try for sure. I'd give it one try. I mean, I'm into different combos. Like whenever I do chicken and waffles, and I have to have maple syrup and ranch. And so I'm always down to try it once. But given that I'm doubly allergic, I don't know if that's ever going to happen in my lifetime.
Fair enough. And lastly here, so much going on, Grownish, Blackish coming to an end. What is it that you want people to be most looking forward to from you? Because if someone has Yara in their mind, they've got to divide their attention into so many different buckets, right? Whether it's Adidas, whether it's this or that. Where do you want to direct people's attention to right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, first, I'd have to say the Adidas collection and what else is coming is really exciting me. A lot of love was poured into it. And so I'm excited for what's to come there and hope people keep paying attention because I was I think, floored by the response to this one. But then the other thing would just be Yara as a producer. What we've been able to do with Seventh Son has made me really excited for what's to come. And as an actor, I've been able to work in incredible environments, 2 of which you just named, in which my opinion's been respected. It's felt like a family, but all in all, you're still an actor receiving a script. And so there's something different about having that level of ownership of being able to either tell our own stories or collaborate with incredible people and get them in the door. So what we've been able to do behind the scenes in terms of even restructuring how equity is doled out in television to what we're going to be able to put on screen is making me pretty giddy.
Awesome. Well, we've been giddy at the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Stay safe, and we wish you all the best.
Likewise.
And thank you for letting all of that stuff slide. That what'd you say? You let the first few slide, and then
just because you asked such specific questions, bro. I was like, how do you know this?
I'm sorry, but we have to. You know what I mean? We got to do what we got to do.
I appreciate it. A lot that I've never spoken about before. So thank you.
We're honored, Yara. Thank you. For real, be safe and continue to do great things.
All right. Much love. Thank you so much.
All right.